Today I've come to a place called Cooms Wood, and it's not too far from my usual woods that I go to, probably another 3 or 4 miles down the road. And I've just quickly took the drone up from where I've parked outside here so that you can see really sort of what the landscape is like. It's very sort of like long across that way, and it's not too deep that way, even though probably in the video you see massive trees on there, but it goes down to the River Eden. Currently, according to my compass on my phone, I'm 160 metres above sea level, so it'll be interesting to see how far down I've got to go. This is quite a popular woods, and you do get a lot of, I've seen a lot of mountain bikers here already coming through this morning, and obviously you get an awful lot of dog walkers as well. Other than the hills in this woods, I'm absolutely loving this here so far. Haven't been here very long whatsoever, and just come up the pathway here. There's a lot of pathways, a bit like this, tracks, and then they go off on places like this all over the place, especially up the top here. And I don't know how well it shows on the camera here, but you can see that the whole of this is going down quite a distance. Especially like through here, I'm at the level of some of the treetops just through here, and they're not young trees. And I was wandering up here. I'm already 180 metres above sea level now, so I've already climbed sort of 20 metres high. And I noticed all these trees sort of obviously been caught by the winds, with 1 or 2 blown over, an awful lot of cuts here for probably where trees have totally gone down. And to show the extent of this hill as well, I've seen several mountain bikers literally get here and they're walking up there, they're not cycling up there. So I wanted to capture something like that, and initially I was sort of stood back here using this tree here because it's sort of like fairly straight to give some form of a context, because literally almost every tree that I'm seeing here is tilted over, and it just didn't look right because I wasn't including the whole tree. It was sort of catching probably 3/4 of the tree, sometimes part of the greenery, and it just didn't look right. So first of all, tried my 24-105 lens back there, and then I switched over to my 16mm, which again, it just didn't look right. So I've now literally come to the bottom of the hill here, and I'm using this old tree stump here as foreground interest, and in still with a portrait format, because otherwise you're just going to get too much of this sky on the right hand side here, even though I still do get a fair bit of that. Now, I wasn't so sure whether this image fully works because almost every tree has a slant, because I'm such low level, and again pointing up, a bit like in my last video, you get these even on the side trees here very close with the convergent verticals. But just reviewing the images, I've got one tree in here on the right hand side, because it's fairly central in the image, it's only got a slight lean to it, and it acts to me as a point that the camera is certainly truly vertical on here, and all these trees and blown over are showing off the result of what's happened with the wind. I can see now why the mountain bikers like to push their bikes all the way up that hill, which is full of tree roots growing across it as well, so it's not something you can easily cycle up. But when you get over the hill, you've got a whole mixture of these hills coming down here, and just made use of the puddle here. Got the camera really low to try and use the reflection for up on the hill, and I have tried a single focus image, but at the same time I've also tried a set of stacked images just to see if there's any difference when I get to see it on the computer. And I just thought, while there's so many mountain bikers coming around here, this obviously is quite a favoured track for them to come down, and just thought I'd set the camera up here just to try and catch 1 or 2 images of them coming down. Oh yeah. There's a couple of tracks here, one sort of halfway at the bank here that the mountain bikers use, and there's another one which is sort of on the brow of the hill there, which is where they're mainly going. But I've just dipped down here because these bits of wall over the top here, I spotted those when I looked at them from up there. You could see there were 3 or 4 uprights, and it certainly wasn't going to be a fence. I'm guessing that this bit was originally some form of hut or something, many decades ago. And down the bottom there is the village of Armavite. But if you just look over the brow of the hill here, down in the dip, there's another old building down there. And I'm guessing that, I mean, it's quite a size, so I don't think it was a barn or anything like that. And I mean, it could well have been, but with the end wall, you can see windows in the ends there. So I'm guessing that was possibly originally a farmhouse. Come across this dry stone wall. I was having a look around to see what sort of image I can get by using the dry stone wall in the image, and nothing really appealed to me. It wasn't until I sort of come down a bit further here with this tree come down that it sort of like really gave me an option, and I had to come past the tree because I was originally up the top there, and I can use this tree on the left as a frame, as well as the tree over the top as a frame, and the dry stone wall as a frame. And initially I tried this in a portrait mode, which meant either getting an awful lot of the pathway down the bottom here, which really has no interest, or you're going to get a lot of sky. And I do like the branches that are coming off this fallen tree, but I don't think it's necessary to include the whole lot. So what I've gone for in the end, I think, which I will review on the computer properly, is more of a square format, and I just think that works better. The only problem is really with the lighting. The sun is on the opposite side of the dry stone wall, so the dry stone wall and the pathway and everything are all in shadow. But when the sun does come out, which you'll now see, is that you get these real bright streaks of light, say for example on this one tree on the left here, and at the upper end of the pathway. This is the River Eden, and I've just walked down from that bit up there. I'm about 50 metres above sea level now, so I've come down quite a distance, and I spotted between these 2 trees that I've got here, you've got this layer of branches across the bottom and the branch coming across on the top there. And I thought that actually makes quite a nice interesting window. There are some ducks around on the other side there, and they keep flipping around here, but they don't really go through that middle bit. But fortunately the white bubbles that are going through there do make some nice patterns when you stand here and watch quite a while, so it gives a little bit more interest there. And it's because of the dullness of the colours, because they're not very well saturated, they're all sort of like browns in there, it's almost like a monotone image. So I'm sort of quite pleased the way I've done that. This time I haven't actually used the tripod though, because I could get quite a reasonable shutter speed here, and I am sort of standing at the top edge of the bank, so I didn't really want to get the tripod out with having to shoot from quite a height as well. I'm now heading back from the river area. I have actually been all along the bottom of the river, but nothing really of interest that I want to take any images of. Other than it being hard work going uphill, I've even made things worse of probably picking some of these really minute little tracks, which maybe some of the mountain bikers might go down, which are really, really steep. Got up so far on this one and stopped to take my breath and turn around and take a look. And I just really like this sort of scene. There's a little bit down the bottom here I literally had to scramble up a bit. There's more of a ledge there, and it's quite a big step up there, but you can hopefully see the way this weaves around there, and it's actually quite steep as it goes all the way down the bottom there. And I just thought, with all these trees sort of reaching up to the sky here, the sky is actually quite nice as well, but there's a lot of sort of browns and dark greens and everything here, and where the sun catches things, sort of like some light, nice saturated greens. So I've opted for my wide angle lens again, my 16mm. I've took a couple of images now, and both in portrait mode, because I wanted to emphasise obviously this pathway running down there and the height of the trees. And the first image I've got is really sort of, it's catching this shadow here of the tree, and it's sort of quite a way across there, where the pathway doesn't really start where the step is until probably about a third of the way up in the image. Whereas I thought, in actual fact, I preferred it when I tipped the camera up a little bit further, so that then the pathway was there. You've still got part of the shadow just to sort of like lead you in. And at the same time as well, I think on both images, you've got the sun coming through the tree up there. Be interesting to hear which one you think you prefer. But at the moment, looking at the images that I've downloaded to my phone, I think I prefer the one where it's tipped up a little bit further. But I can understand why the first one, with it being down a little bit further, putting that sort of like footpath and step about a third of the way into the image may look a little bit better. What have I got from the trip today? It's been probably 6 months since I've been here, and this is actually only the second time I've been here. Last time I'd actually parked up at the other end, and I was hoping that being at this end probably wasn't quite so bad. And to be honest, most of the area this end where I spent my first amount of time was actually quite nice. There was some hills and everything, and you got all the tracks where there was a lot of mountain bikes and everything going around. And it was actually quite nice because there was sort of like muddy areas with puddles and everything as well, but it wasn't, like a total mud bath wherever you walked. And that did actually create one or two photo opportunities, especially after I went over that big mound and down the other side. That's where I then noticed that the mountain bikers were coming down and racing down there, where I was taking one or two images, which was quite nice to then just set the camera up low on a tripod and get some of them coming through. I think as well, because of the time of year, because all the trees are very much the same, all that brown colour, most with no leaves, other than a few of the evergreens, which tend to be really high up. There was never really that much colour around to do much with, so the opportunities to get an interesting image were quite small. Even when I did go all the way down to the river, which was actually quite a climb down, but again, because the river was flowing quite fast, there was really nothing down there that caught my eye to take any images of. The one thing I was surprised about was the lack of any flowers about. I mean, we're now heading towards the mid-March, and the other woods I usually go to a lot of the time, there's flowers appearing around there all over the place, and the only flowers I actually see here were those bright yellow ones on a handful of gorse bushes. Hopefully there's been one or two decent images there. Thanks a lot for watching.